So guys, this week the Sandstorm dev team dumped a ton of new info about Operation Breakaway on us, but most importantly, they made a lot of that content available on the CTE. And so obviously that means we've got a ton of stuff to talk about that I didn't think we would cover this week. So the question is then, is any of it any good? Well guys, this is BillyEatWorld again, and let's find out. Alright guys, how you going? Welcome to the video, and like I said, today we're finally getting our first look at Operation Breakaway, which, like I said before, if you are interested in checking out for yourself, is kind of mostly available on the public CTE until Monday the 21st of September. Now, with that being said, just bear in mind that there is apparently some stuff to be announced that isn't available yet. And not just that, but also bear in mind the CTE is a work in progress. But as you'll see in this video, we do have access to the new map, the new guns, and a lot of the other stuff that we didn't know about until this week. Now, just before we get into that though, if you did miss my last few videos, well, to recap, Operation Breakaway is a new free update that's coming out in a few weeks on October 6th. And apparently it's going to be themed around a fictional coup d'etat scenario where basically elements of the security forces have switched sides and joined the insurgents. Now, the key new features in this update are a new map called Tell, which you can see on screen now, and two new bullpup assault rifles, the FAMAS and the AUG 3. But not just that, and we'll talk about this again in just a bit, but we now know we're going to be getting underbarrel shotguns, new foregrips, and also a brand new game mode. Alright, so to kick off, obviously the first thing we need to talk about is the new map Tell, or should I say the old map, because you might not realize this is actually a reimagining of the Insurgency 2014 map of the same name. I mean, if you have a look at it next to the original version, you can see pretty clearly the devs have drastically changed the color palette and redesigned most of the buildings, to the extent that in some parts of the map I was actually getting lost, and it took me a few games to find my way around again. The other thing you're going to notice is how tight this map is compared to most of the vanilla Sandstorm maps. It really is the definition of urban CQB. There's lots of secret ways to transition from objective to objective, which means lots of ways to flank around, but I think probably the biggest issue with this map is going to be when people figure those lanes out. If you can remember the 2014 version at all, well, you probably have nightmares of getting killed by campers and of perfectly timed RPGs and grenades. So I guess even though my first impressions of Tell are pretty positive at this point, as for whether it actually is going to work on the gameplay side of things when it hits the public servers, well, we'll just have to probably wait and see. Now, moving on, obviously the other main thing you're seeing in this video are the new weapons, which I've got to say have turned out to be pretty interesting. The FAMAS, as we kind of expected, looks like it's going to be a fan favorite. The 1200 RPM rate of fire obviously is shredding people, and it's really not that hard to control either. The AUG, on the other hand, well, I'm not too sure about, because sure, it's really easy to control, but it just fires so slowly, and it still only has that 5.56 damage model. And when you put a scope on it, well, it's still pretty hard to keep your rounds on target in fully auto, which is kinda what I was hoping that its niche might be. Now, speaking of the AUG and scopes, well, another thing I should mention is that the devs have actually added the gun along with its stock A1 and A3 scopes, which, I mean, look pretty cool and seem to be pretty useful in co-op, but like I said, probably won't get that much attention in PvP servers for the reasons I mentioned just before. What will get attention though are a range of new foregrips the devs are adding. In addition to the original recoil grip, we've now got the aiming grip, which buffs aiming speed, and the loading grip, which buffs reload time. And not just that, but we've now got the quick draw grip, which is pretty self-explanatory, and most importantly, the point shooting grip, which replaces that upgrade that was added in Nightfall. But finally, still on attachments, last but not least, and we kind of already knew these were coming, but the devs are going to be adding underbarrel shotguns. But probably the biggest surprise we've got this week is that they haven't just added the master key like we saw in the key art. They've also added in the M26 MAS and also the buckshot launcher. The master key we now know is tube fed and is going to be available to both factions, and the M26 is magazine fed and it's only going to be available to the security team. Whereas on the other hand, the Insurgent's buckshot launcher is only a single shot weapon, although that is balanced out by the fact that unlike the other two underbarrel shotguns, it can actually aim down sights. But anyway, finally, the last new big feature that I should mention we have to play with in the CTE is the new game mode Outpost, which once again you might remember from Insurgency 2014. Basically, this one is a defensive co-op mode where you have to defend against waves of increasingly difficult enemies, kind of like a cross between regular push and Call of Duty zombies. The objective of the players is to defend against 10 waves of enemies, and just like in push, if the defenders lose an objective, they get pushed back to the next one. But with that being said, probably the big difference is that you initially start with only 2 supplies. So you'll start out with pistols or SMGs and work your way up to better gear as the round goes on. Now, if you're anything like me, well, you're probably thinking, well, that sounds pretty boring. Playing against AI doesn't really give me much of a challenge. Well, turns out to go along with this update, the other thing the devs have done is made quite a few tweaks to how the AI works. Apparently, the AI are better at identifying player sounds now, but not just that, they're also a bit dumber in that if they lose sight of you, they'll shoot at your last known position instead of your current one. But on the other hand, they're also now much smarter in that they'll engage you more quickly in long-range gunfights and also at very short ranges. So hopefully that will make the AI experience much more challenging. And with that, guys, well, that just about wraps up this video. Hopefully we'll have some more updates on Operation Breakaway, I'd say, in about a week's time. And of course, just remember, I can't possibly cover every single detail of these dev posts in one video. So as always, if you want to find out more, I'll leave all the relevant links in the description. As always, though, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And please feel free to check out the links in the description if you want to see any more of these videos. And also don't forget you can find my Twitter and Discord links down there as well if you want to keep in touch. And as always, until next time, see you later and have a good one.